Hola, ¿qué tal, damas y caballeros? Bienvenidos a un episodio más de su podcast Alex and D. Estamos aquí en vivo, grabando en vivo desde Casero Estudios en la ciudad de Alton, Texas. Como siempre, me acompaña mi compañero Jesse Segovia.
¡Hey! ¿Qué onda, mi Alex? ¿Cómo andamos?
Bien, bien, gracias a Dios, bendecidos, aquí con salud.
Es todo. Oye, me asusté yo mismo.
¿Por qué?
Pues estaba dormido y como que grité así y desperté.
¿Despertaste? No, pues es que hemos andado en friegas, carnal.
Yes, sir.
Tenemos muchos proyectos en puerta que estamos trabajando ahorita.
Gracias a Dios, sí.
Vamos a darles una pequeña primicia, ¿verdad, Jesse? Nomás, no les podemos dar mucha información, pero sí les vamos a comunicar que yo y Jesse nos hemos decidido a comenzar un proyecto musical.
Ajá.
Que creemos que va a ser algo que le va a gustar mucho a la raza, sobre todo a la gente que ya nos ha conocido por mucho tiempo y que ha apoyado nuestras carreras. Así es que muy pendientes y pues,
Eso esperemos.
Esperemos que sea de su agrado. ¿Algo que quieras agregar tú, Jesse, tocante ese tema?
No, tocante ese tema no, traigo hambre. ¿No trajiste tacos?
Pues normalmente los invitados traen, pero...
¿No le dijiste o se lo olvidaron?
No, yo me acuerdo que yo sí le dije bien clarito el mensaje, bring tacos. Y le dije específicamente, Taquería Jalisco de Riviera, por favor, que sean de ahí. Porque
no del Taco Bell.
Ahorita te digo por qué, carnal, there's a little backstory to that.
Okay.
Pero sí, carnal, el día de hoy, como siempre, nos acompaña una invitada de lujo. Yo estoy bien contento porque ya tengo tiempo platicando con ella. Hemos estado en comunicación por las redes sociales, viendo su trabajo, escuchando su música. Como tú sabes, no la conocíamos, pero gracias a una amiga que vino aquí al podcast, ella fue la que nos habló de ella.
Uh-huh.
Y obviamente pues no podíamos pasar la oportunidad de invitarla.
Sí, fíjate que yo ya tenía tiempo que la seguía igual en Facebook.
Tú sí, ¿verdad? Pues tú
sí,
trabajaste para ella, ¿verdad?
Bueno, sí, le grabé teclados en un tema por parte de Salvador Chávez.
Ok.
Chava Chávez. Y pues también por parte de Mayra. También la llegué a conocer por ahí.
Okay.
En persona no, es la primera vez. Y ya tenía rato que Alex, y viene GENYVA, y luego que siempre no, y que viene GENYVA. Le digo, Alex, ¿ya no estás jugando?
Nomás, I'm just playing with your emotions. No, como siempre. Y I say emotions because for us it's very inspiring to have fellow artists in here que también cantan, que también se dedican a la música, porque tú sabes que si de música se trata, carnal, tenemos plática para toda la noche. Damas y caballeros, el día de hoy nos da mucho honor, mucho gusto presentarles a GENYVA Salas.
Salas Monjaras.
Salas Monjaras. Do you normally go by Salas or nomás GENYVA?
Actually, Salas is my maiden name.
Okay.
And Monjaras is my married name. But,
okay.
Since I'm the last, Salas outside of my father, I decided to keep it.
Okay.
Because I'm, I lost my only brother a few years ago. And so now I was the only child left. And so I said, no, I want to keep the name
the
Salas.
Bloodline.
Hacerle honor a tu
So I go by
familia.
GENYVA Salas Monjaras.
Oh, ok, bueno, pues mucho gusto, GENYVA. Hay muchas cosas que queremos platicar contigo el día de hoy. Obviamente tienes una carrera impresionante dentro de la música. Pero hay algo que sí te quisiera preguntar, o primero te quisiera decir, primero que nada, tienes un nombre bien original y bien bonito.
Gracias.
GENYVA, ¿qué onda? O sea, ¿alguien se llamaba así en tu familia?
Well, my grandmother from Mexico, her name was Genoveva.
Okay.
So, they decided to name me GENYVA, after
en honor
her.
a ella.
Yeah, nada más que they didn't name me Genoveva, they named me GENYVA.
Okay.
A couple of people are like, your name is Genoveva. I'm like, no, it's GENYVA. It's, my birth certificate says GENYVA, it doesn't say Genoveva. But yeah, it was in honor of my father's mother, Genoveva.
Ok, pues felicidades, muy bonito
Gracias.
Nombre, muy original.
Es que desde chiquita sabían que iba a ser artista.
Oye, lo que te iba a decir, eres un hombre muy artístico.
Sí.
Y de hecho, como tú sabes, te conocí, bueno, como Jesse ahorita mencionó, él ya te conocía, pero yo te conocí por medio de Cristina Salinas, que ella fue una invitada aquí con nosotros, fue la que estuvo comentando que ella, pues, tú sabes lo que ella habló y dijo de ti, que dijo que eres un excelente cantante, y ahora que escuché tu música digo,
no, pero di todo lo que dijo.
Lo que dijo detrás, lo que dijo detrás de cámaras, ¿verdad?
Detrás de las escenas.
No, nada que ver, pues Cristina es un ángel, esa chava.
Sí,
Ella
es un
muy
gran talento.
muy
Saludos.
linda, muy talentosa, un saludo para ella.
Saludos.
Y al rato la vamos a tener por aquí otra vez para que nos venga a platicar más de su historia, pero sí, gracias a ella fue que yo supe de ti. Y cuando ella mencionó tu nombre, sí me llamó mucho la atención, se me hizo muy original y yo me puse a pensar, ¿será su nombre verdadero o es un nombre artístico? Porque GENYVA se me hace como bien como artistic.
Yeah.
Pero qué bonito, felicidades
Gracias,
por
muchas
eso.
Gracias.
Bueno, pues Jenny, vamos a platicar un poco de lo que, vos, primero que nada, de ¿verdad? ¿Quién eres tú? ¿Qué es lo que tú haces? Obviamente mucha gente te va a reconocer porque tienes fans en lo que es el Valle, en México, Monterrey y todo, pero la gente que probablemente nunca te ha visto o te está conociendo, tú eres cantante de música tejana, primordialmente, ¿verdad?
Sí, pues mi primer amor, pues, es la música tejana, ¿no? Okay. Pero, pues, una voz no se puede detener. Yo, o sea, yo canto de todo, música regional, música grupera, ranchera, claro. O sea, de todo, pop, me gusta de todo, pero, pues, sí, mis proyectos musicales han sido más tejanos que nada.
Sí. Qué padre, sí. Y entonces, pero obviamente no empezaste hace poco, o sea, de hecho ya tienes bastante tiempo.
Pues yo canto desde la edad de 4 años.
4 años, sí, estaba viendo por ahí algunas entrevistas que te han hecho antes y sí hiciste ese comentario de que, de hecho hay algo muy interesante que comentas también de tu primer...
presentación.
Bueno, eso también te quería preguntar acerca de eso, que me parece muy interesante, pero también cómo tú de alguna forma, you foretold your future with Grupo Más.
Yeah.
Because you were at a concert.
Yeah, the day that I met my husband, and it was May 7th of 1994.
Wow.
Yeah, it was something that I had asked God for. You know, I was waiting for I mean, he became my boyfriend, but it was like basically like our first date.
Wow.
And I was standing there. I you know, whenever I would go to concerts, I would like to stand in the front, right? And so Maz was playing, Rebecca Valadez, you know, started Vuelve Conmigo, you know, and I was listening to her and I was like, wow. And I said, man, God, give me the opportunity to be up there like her one day.
Algún día.
And 28 years later, that opportunity presented itself to me, and on May 7th of that upcoming year, which was 2 months after my first show with Mas, I was singing to my husband, you know, 28 years later, you know, he was there in the crowd, and literally I was like in tears because I couldn't believe it, you know, that even after 28 years, you know, God gave me that desire of my heart, you know, and I'm living beautiful experiences with the band and, you know, singing with an icon like Joe Lopez, you know, and it's crazy because when I thought I was just going to sing one song, which was a song I had recorded with Joe in the studio. And when they invited me to Kingfest, which was 2 years ago, I thought I was just going to go sing that song. And so when I went to, you know, meet with them and everything, and, you know, I said, well, how are we going to do this? Are you going to invite me, like, at a certain time? And he's like, no, I want you to just get on there and sing. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know your song list. He's like, just sing whatever you remember, like whatever, you know, whatever parts you know, right? And it was just like, if I had been preparing for that all my life, because it's like this switch turned on in my brain and I knew all the parts. And you would see Joe turn around and look at me like with this smile on his face, like, because I was the piece of the puzzle that was missing, you know, that female part that, you know, a lot of the biggest hits have, you know, and so it was beautiful, you know, and the next day he offered me a job and I've been with them ever since.
Wow, that's incredible. Pues sí me gustaría platicar mucho más de Grupo Más, obviamente es una parte importante de tu historia, pero para empezar esta entrevista, vámonos al principio. ¿Dónde empieza la historia musical de GENYVA?
In a small town called Ed Couch, Texas. Ed Couch, Texas. Yeah.
RGV 956.
Yeah. Ed Couch, Texas.
A lot of good musicians have come out of there.
Of course. Some of the best, I believe, you know. My parents bought me the first instrument that inspired my love for music, which was a record player and a record of La Mochila Azul. I think a lot of the artists that have started off with La Mochila Azul.
Pedrito Fernández.
Yeah, Pedrito Fernández. Wow. And this other girl named, I think her name was Katy, with the Besitos de Chocolate. And so my parents would basically bribe me. O sea, ellos me chantajeaban y me decían, tienes que ensayar y que un día va a venir Pedrito Fernández y te va a llevar a sus conciertos a cantar con él. Y pues yo, every day I would practice, you know. And he never came. Pero pues no.
Todavía no.
Bueno, ya se te hizo trabajar con Joe López. Pues ahora falta el que sigue.
Y fíjate,
Pedro
my
Fernández.
Publicist from Monterrey actually manages him. So I know that one day I'll get a chance to meet him.
Al principio de la entrevista estabas hablando de Elsa Ed Couch. Para mí es un lugar muy especial porque Volumen X en nuestros inicios grabamos ahí.
¿A poco? ¿Los estudios de Benny Layden?
Con Eloy Ávila. No sé si lo conozcas.
Sí, Eloy Ávila.
They had It was like an air conditioner
Yeah,
repair
like
shop. Enfrente del HEB.
yeah. I used to live 2 houses down.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Pues sí, ahí back in 99,
Mm-hmm.
we were doing like a little demo, trying to, pues, get ourselves out there. Y pues íbamos, we spent like almost a month recording that album. So every day, like after school, whatever, íbamos like all the way to Oasis y todo. So I have that memory. Y luego, over the years, I started hearing of a lot of artists coming out of there. I still am a big fan of Los Frijoles Románticos.
Oh, claro, claro.
Me gustó la producción que
Sí,
hicieron.
Epi, Lucky Joe,
Yeah,
y Noe
yeah.
Hernández.
Lucky's doing really good, right?
Yeah,
lately,
he's doing
ahora
good. Yeah,
anda
he
echándole ganas el solo.
he signed with Freddie Records. He was
Yeah.
blessed to have the support of, Jesse Turner and Lalo from Elida Reina's husband.
Yeah.
So we went to school together. We were in Estudiantina together. So
Wow.
yeah, to see that, o sea, que hemos realizado sueños saliendo de un pueblo tan chiquito.
Sí.
Ha sido muy bonito.
Pero there's something there. We need to go and do like a little, ¿cómo se llama? Como un little research en Elsa.
Yeah,
Porque
pues Benny Layton,
there's a lot of talent
Benny
comes out of
Layton,
there.
yeah, like Conjunto Delta Boys, they're also amazing.
We need to go drink.
Finally
We need to go drink the water there,
down
Jesse.
memory
¿Verdad que
lane.
sí? No, hay un canalito por ahí para
Sí,
bañarme.
tira, echarnos
Sí.
a la- See if we can get some of that musical talent.
Yeah,
pero
no,
sí.
What are you
there's a
trying to
lot of-
say,
there's
Alex?
a lot of-
Sí.
a
We're
lot of
talented
talent.
too, bro.
Sí. No, un saludito para todos ellos.
Yeah, and so what happened was that I was the queen for the Ed Cauchelsa Head Start, right? And so one day my mom told the director that I would sing, and so they invited me to sing at one of our events at the Head Start. And so that opened up like this whole like tour basically, in all the schools of Ed Cauchelsa. I was invited to perform at all the schools. And so it was like, a year or two that me la pasaba de escuela a escuela, Westlaco, Monte Alto, La Villa. And so that's how a gentleman by the name of Eddie Perez, he was a friend of my father. He's a very well-known musician. Well, he was doing events, and at the Villarreal Convention Center, Don Antonio Aguilar they had a concert, and so I opened up the show. So imagine, 4 years old, opening up for an icon like that, So imagine my first professional event was opening up for Don Antonio Aguilar.
You were 4 years old.
I remember.
You have memories
Oh
of
yeah,
that
I
moment?
remember the stage feeling ginormous.
Is there video of that somewhere?
Not that we have. Yeah,
that would've
I mean
been
you're
awesome.
talking about
Early 80s?
81, like in 82.
No digas
I think
edades,
so.
Alex. ¿Cómo te gusta decir edades a ti?
Mira,
Yeah.
carnal, aquí we're all in the same range, so no hay problema.
Okay.
Yeah,
let's be
it had
adults
to have
about it.
been
Wait,
sometime in 82.
let me clear that up. We're all in the same range. We're in the late 20s, so we're good.
There we go.
At least we feel like in our 20s, so
I mean,
no pasa nada.
fíjate, I saw Eddie Perez not too long ago, at the funeral of a friend of ours. His father had passed away. Johnny Hernandez, he's a very well-known musician as well. God rest his father's soul. We were his, he was playing there at the wake.
Yeah.
And so I told him, I went up to him and I said, you probably don't even remember me, but I'm GENYVA. And he's like, oh, I know who you are. He's like, I follow your music. And I was like, what? And I said, you do know that I'm, GENYVA, the one that performed. He's like, I know exactly who you are. And I was like, wow,
He
for him to
remembered you
he
from
remembered me, yeah. So I might,
gig.
it doesn't hurt to ask him. I mean, maybe he's got a video. I mean, I guess because back then, I don't even know if there was like video recorders.
Yeah, there probably was, but it wasn't something as common as today. Like today you go to a concert, and especially if you're in the back rows, like all you see is like camera phones. Like, I'm like, guys, enjoy the concert,
Yeah.
Pero bueno, it's part of the culture, I guess. Pero nowadays everybody records everything. Pero
I do have audio though of when I was 4 years old.
Really?
Yeah, I have a recording where I'm singing along to La Mochila Azul. I was actually, it was a rehearsal for that event.
Oh wow!
And so I have audio. I'll send it to you. Maybe you can add a clip in this
Claro.
interview. That way you
Yeah.
can.
How does that make you feel when you listen to that? At this point in your life, obviously with everything you've accomplished. And all the history you have with music, listening to that, I mean, that's
pues
like
realizada. I mean, that's what I can say,
Sí.
realizada, because it was something that I knew that I wanted to do as a child, and to be living it, it's beautiful, and it's been hard though.
Claro.
It's been very hard, long road. You know, Myra and I have been knocking on doors, you know, for the past 14 years. And it's just been, I'd say maybe the last 2 years that, you know, the fruits of our labor have been, you know, showing. I had my first #1 song, you know, 2 years ago. And I mean, it was a song that I had written for my husband when I was 17. So imagine that song had been put away for, you know, 27 years.
I can see him from here, and he's in tears over there.
You know, imagine that song. My first #1 song was a song that I wrote, you know, to him when I was 17. I met him when I was 16. I gave it to him for our 1-year anniversary when I turned when I turned 17, and I sang it to him a cappella because at that time, I still wasn't recording professionally, you know. And so, 27 years went by. You know, I lost my mother, and we waited a year before we went through her things. And so that year goes by, we're going through her things, and I found my binder, and from high school. And so when I opened it, Entre Tus Brazos was the first song that was there. And we were like literally like 2 weeks away from our 28-year anniversary, and I said, I'm going to record it, you know, as a gift. And so I released it, and that song took me to #1 and took me international into Mexico. And so, I mean, that basically was the song that, you know, gave me international fame.
That was a perfect timing for that song.
Promesas cumplidas. You know, these were, you know, because when we first met, you know, we were both, you know, in previous relationships. We had gone through a lot, and it was kind of like hard to get him to trust me and me to trust him. And so we weren't even sure we were going to stay together. Like, you know, so it was just kind of like, I would tell him like, hey, like, let your guard down. Like, you know, I just want to love you forever. And, you know, I want to be by your side in the good and in the bad. And I mean, and that's, you know, it's been 30 years of history with him and I, you know, not that many relationships last like that.
Especially in the music industry. I mean, my hats off to him for, you know, for being supportive.
Exactly.
I mean, I mean, everybody knows, you know, the music industry, it's hard.
Of course.
And, you know, there's a lot of things that you have to go through. I mean, así como es de bonita la carrera también, there's a lot of temptations, a lot of... So to be able to keep that balance, you know, I always say that it's important to keep the people that have been with you since the beginning. That kind of keeps your feet on the ground.
Yeah, it's about respect. Claro. I think the most important thing about respect. You know, I mean, not all relationships are perfect. You know, there was a time when we separated for a year, and you know, we realized, like, what are we doing? You know, we have 2 children. We have 2 daughters, Nicole and Natalie, and so we were like, what are we doing? You know, we had a 3-year-old and a 3-month-old at the time, and you know, so my daughters would cry when they wouldn't see their dad, and then they would cry when they wouldn't see their mom. And so, you know, after a year break, you know, and you know, we decided to get back together, and we've been together ever since. So I mean, we've overcome so many obstacles, and you know, there's nothing impossible once you put God in the center of your relationship, and you know, the center of your family.
Of course.
You know, there's nothing that you can't overcome. And so I'm blessed, you know, that he travels with me. He goes with me everywhere. He's like my personal bodyguard. You know, and so, I mean, I've always said it's, you know, we're a team. And it's either we go together or nothing, you know, and I've always been very strict when it comes to that, you know, and so I'm blessed that because of, you know, he's such a hard worker. You know, I've been a stay-at-home mom for you know, I lost my brother 10 years ago, so it's basically been almost 10 years that I've been more of a stay-at-home mom. I mean, I still have a, you know, part-time job. I sell pre-need funeral, so if ever anybody needs help doing that,
we need to talk about that.
You know, if ever anybody needs help preparing for that, you know, I can definitely help you. I work with all the funeral homes in Texas. And so I mean, that's just for whenever I want, like, if there's something in particular that I want, I know that I can go and work and be able to buy that for myself, you know,
like a little passive income.
But you know, but I mean, I love to help my community. And so that's why I continue to do that, because you know, I lived it with my brother. When my brother died, he had nothing. He wasn't prepared, and my mom ended up with that debt. And so just to see her, you know, trying to find a credit card to pay for it was just kind of like, you know, it was sad. And so the first thing my husband and I did is we went and bought our cemetery space, our funeral. And so now we know that we're not going to leave our family with that bind, you know. And so, I mean, I'm just blessed. You know, he's got a cabinet business, and he, you know, is very reputable, and he's a hard worker, and he, you know, he goes to work every day to give us the best. And And so I'm blessed to have
I might
him on
have
my
to
life.
update my cabinets
Yeah.
in my kitchen now.
No,
Yeah,
see.
yeah. So D&G Custom Cabinets, shout out to all our staff and our
Yeah.
contractors and to my honey that's here, Danny.
Saluditos, saludos. Ya lo saben, raza, si tienen alguna necesidad de, pues primero que nada de los funerales para
Yeah.
preparar todo lo que, vea, especialmente en nuestra cultura, aquí con la raza, es algo que no nos gusta hablar de eso, especialmente a la gente mayor, pero es como Geneva acaba de mencionar, es algo muy importante porque lo último que queremos es dejarle pues más carga a la familia.
Yeah.
Entonces sí hay que hacer conciencia de eso y pues aquí está la orden Geneva.
Y pues son planes de pago bien bajos, o sea, y está asegurado tu plan. So, si llegas a fallecer antes de que lo acabas de pagar, queda pagado. Y pues tu familia más que nada se queda sin tener que hacer un GoFundMe, sin tener que hacer una venta de platos. Y pues, o sea, estamos aquí para servirles en lo que necesiten y lo que ocupen.
Claro que sí. Geneva, entonces empezaste con el pie derecho, abriéndole un concierto a la leyenda que fue ante el señor Antonio Aguilar. ¿Qué fue el siguiente paso para ti después de eso?
Bueno, pues como te mencioné, pues por varios años me pasé pues en las escuelas y luego ya cuando entré a la secundaria estuve en un programa que se llamaba La Estudiantina bajo un músico legendario por nombre Benny Layton.
Okay.
Y pues ahí fui una vocalista, ganamos varios divisiones número 1 con la Estudiantina del Cauchelsa y pues ya a los 17 es cuando entré a mi primer agrupación tejana, que fue el grupo Sierra. Con el señor Rosendo Chendo Beltrán y Tiny, que fueron los que me invitaron. O sea, yo era una vocalista y teníamos también un vocalista masculino. So, éramos una cantante mujer, un hombre y cantábamos. O sea, eso es cuando yo conocí, por decir, a Selena, Laura Canales, Stephanie Lynn, Elida Reina, Stephanie Montiel, Shelly Lares. Yo de primero pues me gustaba más la música pop como Tiffany, Debbie Gibson. Y esa es otra que también alcancé a conocer. Yo había escrito en la pared de mi cuarto, me gustaría, o sea, en un póster de Tiffany, me gustaría conocerte un día. Y Dios me dio, o sea, pude decirle en persona cómo su música me inspiró, ¿no? O sea,
¿cuáles fueron los éxitos de ella?
De
que
Tiffany, por ejemplo, ¿cómo se llamaba la song que te cantaba, babe? La de I Saw Him Standing There, that was one of them. When we was just 17, do you remember that song? And you know what I mean. That one. Y luego tenía la de The Flowers You Gave Me. I forgot the name of it. But Could Have Been. Se llamaba Could Have Been. Yeah, that was like, I remember when I had a funeral for one of my dogs. It was English pop.
Ballads,
yeah, English pop, yeah.
Okay.
And then my best friend introduced me to Shelly Lares. She had a cassette and we used to drive around at Cauchelsa. And so actually Shelly Lares was the first Tejano artist that I was introduced to. Okay. So once, you know, and then my mom would hear like Laura Canales. And so that's when it started interesting me, right? Because I would speak more English than Spanish at the time. So then I started learning, you know, Selena, and I would sit there and I would record myself, you know, recording like Elida Reina. And so that's when it, you know, by the time I ended up in Grupo Sierra, I already knew a bunch of songs. Yeah. So when they heard me sing, Ramiro Cruz was the one that introduced me to Chendo Beltran. And so we ended up just, you know, it just came so natural. And so we started doing concerts, but then it came to the point where they decided they just wanted a male singer, and so they kicked me out of the band. And now they regret it. I know they did. Now they regret it, but yeah, they kicked me out of the band, and so.
How did you take that? Was it hard for you?
Of course, I was so sad because I loved it. You know, I loved it. And
how old were you at this point?
At the time, I was 17.
Oh no!
Yeah, I was 17. So I was just like, you know,
the most vulnerable time in our lives.
Yeah, I mean. And so then, right after that, then I met Martin Hernandez, and I joined Grupo La Fuerza. So La Fuerza, they had a singer by the name of Juan Cole. And then something happened, the band broke up, and so then they said, you know what, let's try a female singer. And so we started, you know, having gigs and performing, and we were about to go into the studio, and then the band breaks up. So I was like, I guess it's not for me. And I was just like, what? And so
everything against you.
Yes, everything against me. And so by that time I was already like graduating, and so I decided to take a break. And I said, I want to be a mom. I want to have kids, and so my husband and I started planning, to have a baby, and we got pregnant at the first try. And so we had our first daughter.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, after that, I still continued. I started to record. I hooked up with a producer and musician by the name of Chris Rodriguez. He's got, I think, Tejano Highway 281. So he was one of the first ones that, that started recording my music. Cause I was a songwriter too, so I started I recorded a song called Te Volteé la Cara, and I got to do the Aquí Rogelio show. And so it was going good, but then I decided to be a mom, and raise my kids. And so a few years went by, and then they had a contest called Valores del Valle, a show called El Show de Marcos Valdez. I don't know if you ever saw it on Univision.
On Univision, yeah.
Yeah, and so I decided to, it just seemed like every time that I was trying to pursue my career, something would happen. Something would get in the way.
Does that sound familiar, Jesse?
Ooh, dímelo a mí. Every time.
He always
But you know what?
talks about that.
It's all along, to me now, it feels like it's been God's protection, to be honest.
Los tiempos de Dios son perfectos.
Yeah.
Los tiempos de Dios son perfectos. And I think that that's what gave me thick skin, because the genre that I chose has always been a male-dominated genre.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like they would always put us in the back burner, right? So when I did the show of Marcos Valdez, I won, right? And so the deal was, if you win, you were going to get to record 5 songs at Discos Joy International, which was one of the biggest record labels at the time, right? And that's the label where Michael Salgado had come out of, Grupo Fama, Patsy Torres, Selena had her inicios were also part of Discos Joey. And so when Mr. Lopez heard me and saw the videos of when I won, they offered me a record contract. So it was no longer 5 songs, that I got to take. They offered me, to record a full album, 1-year contract. Let's see how it goes. And so we recorded. It's called Mi Droga Mi Adicción. And it was in 2008. And
this was as GENYVA, como solista.
Yeah,
Wow.
And so Chris Rodriguez and Luis Winnisau produced it for me. We recorded, I'm not sure if it's got 10 or 12 songs, but it included 4 of it was my self-titled album, Mi Droga Mi Adicción. It was a song that I had written, and it included 4 songs, that were written by me. And so we released Yo No Te Pido La Luna, which was actually the first song that became a hit for me back then. It was number 1 on the charts for I don't know, I think maybe 6 weeks.
Wow.
Back then, Que Pasa 99.5 had at night they had a countdown. Yeah. And so, it did really, really good until now. I didn't know in Mexico that was actually my biggest hit up until recently, that I spoke with a guy named Ulises from La Invasora. Okay. Because I thought, the door that opened the song that opened the door, the number 1 song that made me recognize in Mexico, I thought it was Entre Tus Brazos. And he's like, no, Yo No Te Pido La Luna fue un gran éxito aquí. I was like, really? But I didn't know at the time. Yeah.
Well, I would imagine that it's because it was a really big hit in Mexico. That's a song that Daniela Romo made popular. I don't know if she wrote it.
And then Fandango made it popular here in the U.S.
That's right. That's right. So I think people are very nostalgic when it comes to music. So if they hear a song that they like, and especially where the voice is beautiful as yours,
thank you.
I'm sure for them it was wow, a refresher. Yeah. There's nothing better than hearing a good song with a good voice. So that's good, man.
Yeah.
Not very common nowadays.
Yeah, not very common.
Yeah.
Mucha gente no lo sabe, especialmente aquí en el Valle, pero no saben que lo que es en Monterrey la música tejana es muy popular. Contrario a lo que muchos pueden pensar, bueno, pues a lo mejor ya es pura música norteña, pero la verdad es que there's a very loyal following.
Yeah, and they pay to go. Nortex, I was there with Mas last year, and you're talking about, I don't remember if it was 14,000. No, I don't even remember how many thousands it was, but it was thousands and thousands of people that bought tickets to go to these shows. And I was just man, I had to I just stood there and just had to take it in. It was beautiful.
That was at the
at Nortex.
Arena Monterrey, right?
No, it was actually at the, I think it was the Parque Fundadora or something. It was an outdoor event. Yeah.
That's another popular venue over there.
Yeah. But I was also at the Arena Monterrey with Mas too, and it was amazing. Yeah. So, it's you know, my prayers are that one day I'm going to be there as Geneva, but just getting to experience that even with Mas was magical, you know, because I mean, to be with such a huge icon out there is, you know, it's beautiful. But Wayne Entre Tus Brazos took me internationally, you know, because I do, whenever I release a song, like I mentioned to you last time, I do 50 plus interviews. You know, so now when I go to Monterrey, you're talking about we're there, you know, 3 to 4 days. Yeah. We wake up at 6 in the morning. Our interviews start at 7 in the morning, and we don't get back home till 9 o'clock at night. Yeah. Like we literally do like 10 to 12 interviews in one day. Yeah. You know,
that's so what they call a media tour.
Yeah,
right?
So saludos a mi publicista Arturo Quintero.
Saludos.
Yeah, pues ha sido gracias a Destiny Navaira que nos conectó. Yeah. Y pues una bendición, o sea, que nos reciban así tan bonito, tan atentos, o sea, ya tengo ya hicimos 2 giras. Y pues fue algo muy bonito porque también se nos abrieron las puertas en Saltillo, agregamos otro día de promoción y
Saltillo, Coahuila, un saludo para toda la familia de allá.
Sí, saludos también a mis hermanos musicales de la raza Monterrey, que es mi grupo de allá de México, me acompañan, y pues a Kevin también, que I mean, he's a stand-up guy. I mean, he's the lead singer of La Raza Monterrey. I mean, and he shares the band with me, you know, so I'm so proud of them. You know, saludos a Luis, a todos los muchachos del grupo. Pues nuestro meta es de que podamos agarrar permisos para que ya se vengan acá a Estados Unidos para hacer nuestra gira musical con un show de GENYVA. Y pues súper feliz porque pues realizando sueños cada día Dios me concede los deseos de mi corazón, y pues hay tanto de qué hablar, de tantas cosas que él ha hecho en mi vida. Y pues como te mencioné lo del disco con Joy International, lanzamos ese tema de Yo no te pido la luna y 2 temas más se me hace, y luego el dueño de la disquera le dio cáncer, se puso una pausa en mi proyecto, otra vez te imaginas, o sea, la decepción de que ¿me entiendes? Muchas cosas que se atrevantaron, o sea, en el camino, pero pues aquí nos ves, o sea, con la frente en alto, realizando sueños, y pues también hubo otra pausa en mi carrera despuesito de eso, que es cuando me enfermé de cáncer, tuve cáncer. Wow. Y pues, o sea, pasé muchos años enferma y no sabíamos qué era problema. Y pues, gracias a Dios, pues, este abril es cuando celebré mi 10 aniversario libre de cáncer. Y pues, gracias a Dios estoy aquí viva porque hubo negligencia médica y pues, por poquito, o sea, pierdo la vida. Y pues, gracias a Dios estoy aquí para platicar mi historia. O sea, soy una mujer guerrera y pues, gracias a Dios que me salvó. Y pues aquí hablando de los milagros que ha hecho Dios en mi vida, y pues tratando de pues seguir picando piedra.
Siempre fuerte.
Sí, claro.
Obviamente has tenido momentos muy oscuros. Desde que empezamos ahorita con la entrevista has mencionado varios momentos. Me imagino obviamente tu hermano que falleció, las caídas de la música que de repente te iba mal, y luego el cáncer. Eso habla muy bien de ti, Geneva, que eres una persona muy resiliente. You have a lot of resilience where, you know, you fall, but you have the strength to get back up. And that's, I mean, I think not only in the music industry, but just in life in general, it's something that, you know, we all need to have that. Porque life is hard. And I always tell my kids this, like, you need to understand that as you grow older, things are going to happen. But that doesn't mean you give up, you know.
Exactly.
So first of all, I am happy that you're still here with us, that you're healthy.
I'm happy too.
Le comentaba a Jesse hoy en la tarde que I felt that this was going to be I mean, all our guests are important, and for me it's always exciting, pero le dije a Jesse, this one in particular, I think it's going to be very spiritual, because the little that I've gotten to get to know you, and, you know, through your music, through your interviews, I can tell that you have a lot of positive energy in you.
Oh, yeah. But it wasn't always that way, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
I went through a very dark time in my life, but, you know, the devil's a liar, you know, and I didn't see it back then because I wanted the music so bad, you know, that I let it define me, that I let it consume me. And I felt because it wasn't going where I wanted it to, I thought I wasn't enough, you know? It's been like almost 5 years that I was going through a really bad depression. I mean, imagine having everything, you know, beautiful home, beautiful family, just support, but feeling dead inside. Like, I don't know how to explain it other than that. Even though I had God in my life, the devil was able to get me in the parts of my life that I think were my biggest desires, which were, like, for example, a musical career. At the time, I was scheduled to go to a reality show. I had auditioned in Monterrey for this reality show, and I had been told that I was selected, right? And so I had everything prepared. I had my bags basically packed, and like 2 days before I was supposed to, or no, actually the day before I was supposed to fly out. I don't know, I just felt like something was wrong, like something, I don't know, just the vibe felt like negative, right? So the day that I was supposed to fly out, I find out that my tickets were canceled. And I was like, well, what happened? Like, they didn't even call me to tell me, but you know how you early check in and all that stuff, and it said that I didn't have a ticket. So I call I'm not going to mention the name of the show, but I call the show, and they're like, oh, well, we're sorry, but it's because, there was a budget cut, and because you live further away from some of the other contestants, because I live in Texas. This was going to be filmed in Mexico City. They're like, well, we had to cut you out. And I was like, but how come you didn't call me to tell me? So imagine, on top of the depression I was going through, I felt like, man, I wasn't even good enough for them to ask me if I would want to pay my own way there. Because I would have paid my own way there just to be given that opportunity, because I knew that I could do it, and I knew that I could win the show with my talent. But they didn't. So I got even more depressed, and so I was like, man, I'm not even good enough for that, and I just felt like everything. And then at the time, my husband and I were just fighting all the time. It was just like for stupid things, nothing. Now that I sit back and I think about it, it wasn't even important, but I was so emotional at the time that I wasn't seeing it. And so I left my house one night, like at 2 a.m. My husband was in bed asleep. My girls were asleep. And I had left with the intention of jumping in front of a truck, because I live right by like a main highway, right? Okay. And so I was walking down the sidewalk, and I was literally like already like bent down, like in a position to just leap, And right before, I could tell that it was like a semi that was coming, right? And right before it got to me, like it just like turned around. And so I literally like fell to my knees, because I knew that God had saved me. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, I was like, oh my God, like at the moment I had instant regret. And I thought to myself, what the hell am I doing? Like imagine my husband getting the knock on the door that his wife is like aplastada there on Westgate in Mile 6, like I realized, like, okay, like if God saved me at that moment, it's because I have purpose. Like, what am I doing? Like, what are the odds that it would turn around? And so it was just me, the moon, and God right there at that moment. And so I got up and I walked back home, and I'm freaked out, like, oh my God, like what did I just do? Like, and so I get back in my bed, and I'm just like, I'm like sweating, and like my husband, ni idea that I had left to go do that, And so I'm good. I'm fine. And so 2 days later, and 2 days later, like, okay, so the next day I was like pretending like nothing had happened. I was just trying to like forget it. Like, okay, God saved me. There has to be a reason. But 2 days later, I just started feeling the same. And I was like mad, and I'm like, oh, like, so I was sitting outside and I was crying, and we had just recently lost Jose Luis Ayala. He was the drummer for our church band. And we had a church band called Grupo Amor, and we would play at the Tiempo de Dios with Miguel Leal. We had a band. Wow. And so he had introduced me to this song called Aquí Estás.
Jose Luis Ayala,
Ramon Ayala's
for
brother.
Los Bravos del Norte.
Wow. So he was our drummer. He had introduced me to the song Aquí Estás, but we had we never got a chance to play it, right? So when I'm sitting outside, it's just like I'm sitting under the moon, and I'm like crying, and I'm like, man, God, like, why did you save me? Like, why? I don't understand. Like, if I was still gonna feel the same, like, why did you save me? And then all of a sudden my phone started playing the song Aquí Estás. Like it just it, and when I turned my phone around, it was YouTube. And so I knew that I hadn't looked it up. I knew that I hadn't like pressed like to skip the commercials or anything. And so I felt like it was Jose Luis, and it was like God like telling me like. And so I closed my eyes, and I mean I talk about this in my interviews, not because I want to repeat myself all the time, but this is my story. This is my life. This is something I lived. And so
not only that, Geneva, I'm sorry for interrupting, but not only that, Geneva, that you never know who's listening out there.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays with, so many people going through bad times, and sometimes that's all it takes to know that we're not the only ones going through that situation. So,
and so
I'm glad you talk about it.
Yeah, and so I knew that it was God. And so I said, okay, God, if you made the truck turn around and you made my phone start playing this song by itself, like show me, because I don't see what my purpose is. I really don't, because I felt like I was worthless, like I was useless, like I felt like I had no value. And so when I closed my eyes, I just I saw myself on the water with 24 other women holding hands, praising God. And so if you go to YouTube and you search the song Tejanas Unidas en Cristo, Aquí Estás, that is exactly what he showed me. Wow. And so
which is your music video.
Project. Yeah, which is my project.
That's something I wanted to ask you about as well.
And so I felt like he was giving me like a task. Like an assignment.
So everything we see in the video, that's what you saw in your vision?
In my vision. Yeah, he showed me. And even the girls, like each one of the girls that was part of this project. Shout out to all the girls. And it's a lot of them to mention. But yeah, like if they see the video, they'll see who's a part of it. But I think that everybody that is part of this particular project was meant to be there. I mean, it was life-changing for each one of the girls because it came at the right time for each one of them. And soon you're going to be able to get an in-depth interview. We actually filmed a documentary of the making of this project. So it's going to be coming out soon. We had kind of put it on hold because we submitted it for some film festivals, and if you release it out to the public, you can't enter them. So it's been on like for the past 3 years. We've been we already won a couple of awards with the project. But this documentary was filmed by Mingo Mariano and Mausi Cervantes, and it was beautiful because we captured in-depth interviews with each one of these girls. You get to know them not only as the artist but as a person. Struggles that they've overcome, trials and tribulations that they've gone through that people don't know. It's like, for example, I didn't know that Patsy Torres was actually a doctor, and so and so
I didn't know that either.
And so I mean, each one of the girls is interviewed. It shows behind the scenes of the the music video that we filmed in South Padre Island. We had we did a radio tour. We also we had like a slumber party, and so it's gonna be amazing. Like now barely last week was the final film festival, and so now I'm getting connected with some producers from LA, and so we're trying to find the perfect platform to be able to bring it to your home, a streaming platform like Netflix, Pureflix. I mean, we want to see what's going to be the best outcome for this project. Any money that is made from this is going to go to establish like the funds are going to be used to help new talent. This project featured 6 girls that had never recorded professionally, had never done like a music video. I wanted to include icons like Shelly Lares, Patsy Torres, Rebecca Valadez, and then feature girls that were currently on radio and then the future of Tejano, original Mexican. We also featured Perla Quintanilla, which is like a sister to me. And so all these women either inspired my love for Tejano music, or I inspired them, like for example, Annika. She's another young lady from Mercauchelsa that is now in the middle of, finishing up her album. She was being produced by Shelly Lares. So, I mean, every one of them has their story, and it's beautiful because, this song brought us recognition by our governor. We were recognized by the House of Representatives
Wow.
because it was kind of like during the COVID pandemic, and so we came together. I mean, imagine, one, I lost my mom 2 months after this, right? And so it was only through the little bit of money that she left me that I was able to fund this project, and through some sponsors like Jim Tabak, and my husband at DG Custom Cabinets, that we were able to. I mean, because you imagine having to accommodate 25 women traveling from San Antonio to, we recorded at Freddie Records, and then having them come all the way to the island. So all of us put like that grain of salt in there to put it together. And so it was beautiful because God did this, and our message of hope and faith, is what we wanted to leave as our legacy, because this is our legacy. This is the biggest collaboration in Tejano music history. So imagine going from feeling like I was worthless to now being recognized, but by not only the House of Representatives, but the governor of Texas. And then recently I received a Yellow Rose of Texas, which is the highest honor that a woman can receive from the governor. Wow. So, it's beautiful because, I mean, I do have value. You know what I mean? I mean,
I think now more than ever, your question has been answered as to when you were asking God that night, like, what's the purpose of my life? Why did you save me from that truck? I think all the answers are there. He's working.
He's using me.
To reach all these people.
And
it's amazing because, I mean, see how far it goes. I mean, you reached us, through Christina, and we heard your story. So, I mean, listening to everything that you're telling us, I would say that you're probably not only El Sayed Couches, but the Valley's best kept secret. And I know that God is still working on you, and I know that big things are gonna come, and I'm just excited to be. Me and Jesse are excited to be a small part of that. If we can help to get you out there,
for sure.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think that the day that I gave God my career is the day that the door started opening for me. Because I said, like, honestly, to me, it's not about the fame. It's not about, doing 30, 40 concerts a year, making money. That's not what it is. I want to use my talent, my platform to reach the people that are in their homes, depressed, oppressed, or in the audience that are maybe going through something, and, picking songs that are going to uplift you, that are going to give you strength. I record a lot of covers, like I modernize a lot of covers because they're songs that either have lifted me up, like in hard times, or, a friend can relate, to something like that. And, I'll say, like, I'm going to record Como Te Atreves because my friend got cheated on, and I'm going to record this song because I want you to hear it, and I want you to feel better, and I want you to know that you have value. And, so I try to watch what I record and the messages that I'm putting out there, like, I mean, I personally, I'm not going to be singing a song about drinking alcohol or, like, stuff like that. I mean, not that there's anything. I mean, everybody has the right to sing whatever they want, but me, on a personal level, I want to speak life into somebody, instead of destruction.
And more than that, you want to do something that identifies you. Be true to yourself. We're going to cut a little bit. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. No le cambien al canal. No, he's an important part of the podcast.
Yeah, pícale play, ponle pause.
Sometimes it's not what you say, it's the vibe you bring to the conversation.
I have a good vibe.
Yeah, and that's something. I mean, we barely started this podcast this year. We started in January, but it had been something that I've had been wanting to do for a long time. I retired from the touring and the music back in 2008, and I kind of identify with your story in the sense that I felt I had no purpose after that, because I had been working towards a musical career desde que estaba niño.
I'm telling you, we're supposed to start a band. You guys
I know, right?
Listen.
We're on the same journey here. Y sí,
let's just do 10 shows a year. Con eso tenemos good paying shows.
Sí, ¿verdad? Sí, hombre. Y and I mean, 2 years ago, I think, was the darkest part of my life. Yo también empecé. We're rolling already, so . I kind of went through a tough time también. I was just questioning myself a lot as what's the purpose of my life. I mean, what am I doing here? And, in December of last year es cuando empecé a decir a Jesse, I've always wanted to do a podcast, pero not necessarily because I want to be famous or I want to be this or that. O sea, I just feel that I have a lot to say. A lot to say, and I know so many people that share the same story, that they've been so close to making it, but for one reason or another, something happens y no pasa nada. And that's where I feel. I always feel like we were. Well, by the way, the band that I belong to was Volumen X. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
Yes, I know who they are.
Yeah, that was us. I always feel like it was like. Do you remember the Challenger in the 80s, the rocket that went up to space and it blew up before it went out? Que se murió la maestra. The teacher passed away. I every time because I see those documentaries, and every time I see that, I feel like that. I'm like, we were so close, we were almost there, and then it felt like de repente something went wrong and we never made it. Yeah. And that's always messed with me, Pero 2 years ago, te digo, I said, you know what? I'm worth more than, like, that's not who I am. The fame, the money, or whatever you want to call it, that doesn't define me. The music is still part of me no matter what. Whether we play here in the studio, whether we play at a club or a big concert, it's music. Yeah. That's the purpose of why we do this. So.
That's the one that was given to you by God.
Yeah. So I know I'm saying a lot, but going back to Jesse, and the reason why he's sitting there and why I want him included is because to me, he's an important part of that. Él I see how he's struggled to hang on to music as well and to do something with it. And it's inspiring to me. That's when I say, you know what, I want to do this podcast. You want to do music? Let's combine it and let's see where it takes us. Pero siempre con esa intención de, to get my story out there and to, give a voice to people who, want to tell their story as well. Yeah.
Plus, we enjoy company.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Pero bueno, GENYVA, it's a real pleasure to have you here today. We're back from a little break. I'm having a good time today. I think this podcast is turning out to be very.
I'm still hungry.
Is my makeup okay?
See, no, you're good. Okay. You're good. I mean, sometimes we get emotional about the past, the things we've been through. Pero como decías hace rato, lo importante es ser resiliente. Lo importante es tener tu fe fuerte. En tu caso, tienes tu fe en Dios y es lo que te motiva a seguir adelante.
Tengo mi fe en Dios y tengo a la Myra Díaz, la baby doll.
Un saludo para Myra.
Sí, saludos a la baby doll.
¿Sabes que ya I invited her already to the podcast?
Yeah, but she won't. She's too shy.
She told me.
She's like, no, babe, no.
She's like, I'll bring the artist, but not me. Yo no voy. No, pero I mean, like I told her last time I talked with her on the phone, like, it's because I bet you have a real good story to tell.
She does.
I mean, you know so many people. I mean, and being a female in the position that you are, I mean, normally, like you said before, it's a very male-dominated. The stage is dominated mainly by men, but so is the industry. The management, all that. Traditionally, it's always been men. Y yo veo que ella tiene un carácter para hacerlo. She gets things done y todo, but at the same time, you see that heart that she has. Yeah, porque ella se ve que es canija. I would not like to get her mad. Yeah. Pero por otro lado, se ve que si te quiere, she's with you.
Yeah. Te tira esquina. We've been together 14 years. Yeah. There's been times that I wanted to give up, and she's like, "Estás loca? Get in the studio. Get in the studio. Release another song." We just released Ya no somos ni seremos, and I mean, I'm excited. I think it's another. I mean. Pa que te echo mentiras, like, I think that every single song that I have is good, and not to, I'm not trying to be conceited or anything, but it's because sign. That's the importance of it. If you're gonna put out something, you need to make sure the quality is good, the musicians are good.
And you've been going through Chavez music, right?
Yeah, Chava Chavez, he's my producer.
Yeah,
I mean, we have our own style. He knows what I like. He knows. I mean, we've been able to create a style for GENYVA. So when a song comes on, they know that it's GENYVA, and we've had several number one hits.
That's super important.
Yeah, we've been working together for years. And sometimes he'll tell me, like, nah, this song is not a good idea. And I'm like, I don't care what you say. And it becomes a number one song. And he's like, you're right, GENYVA. I'm like, I know. It's just, I feel like God shows me. Like, I feel like I mean, a lot of people might say like, yeah, like God talks to you. Serious, he does. You know, there's just so many things.
He talks to all of us.
Yes,
we need to learn how to hear him.
Exactly.
It's that little voice in our mind that sometimes we choose to ignore, but it's our conscience. You know, we call it conscience, call it God, whatever you want, pero te está diciendo, es por aquí. You know, don't go through there porque te va a ir mal. A veces somos cabezones y queremos aprender a la mala, but siempre está ahí para escucharnos.
Yeah, like he'll tell me, oh, it's too soon to release like the song la de El Amor de Mi Vida. It was recorded originally by Maria Becerra and Los Ángeles Azules. And he was like, it's been less than a year since they recorded it and they released. I said, I don't care. Like, I want to record that song. I said, and it's going to do well for us. It's going to go to #1, Chava. I know what I'm telling you. He's like, GENYVA, you have to listen to me sometimes. I'm like, no, I don't. And so, you know, even the music video came out amazing. We filmed it at Cirque Italia. I mean, it's like now I'm thinking like, I already have, because I direct and I write all my storylines for my music videos. So,
that's like a circus theme, right?
Yeah,
that was so cool. The girls,
the trapeze,
flying,
and so I work with Ryan.
It looks like they're flying, like they're floating.
They are flying.
Yeah,
they're like, I don't know how
with
many.
The currents, right?
No. It's a couple. I mean, I don't know. They have like a circle ring or something. They just stick their hands like in there, and it's like all their upper body strength. Like, it was super cool. It was a water circus, and Ryan Bassan from San Antonio. How did
you make that happen? Like, I know we're going in all directions, but when I saw the video, I was thinking, wow, how did they make that production happen?
We actually I contacted the circus and they connected me with their marketing department, and so I introduced myself. I sent them some of my other music videos so that they could see the quality of the work that we would do. And so I had recently, actually the night before we filmed, I had won music video of the year at the Premios Tejano Mundial with my song Aunque Sea en Otra Vida. So I called them and I'm like, guess what, we just won #1, blah blah blah. And so they were like, yes, we want to work with you. And so, you know, we programmed because they were doing like 3 shows a night, and pues it's very tiring for the trapeze artists and for the staff, because it's a lot of work.
Very
and
physical.
So, and so we had to use like drones, and was you're talking about a water circus, and so we had to film during the day, and then we went back and filmed the night shots at night. And so, you know, thank God, you know, Ryan Bassan came from San Antonio, because he's usually who I work with, and you know, I like that he allows me to direct everything, you know. So he's the videographer, I write everything, and so it came out amazing. And so now I'm like, well, how do you top a circus, you know? Like, how do you record another video and top a circus, you know? But I mean, I've always just been very creative, you know. When I record music and when I do my music videos, I mean, I like to think outside the box and give nothing but the best. So whenever because Myra distributes all my music, you know, so when the program directors open up that email, you know, they know that they're going to get top of the line, top quality, you know. And that's what I tell, you know, a lot of these musicians that, you know, sometimes complain because their music doesn't get played on radio. I tell them, well, you know, do you perfect your craft? Like, what are you sending the program directors? You know, and sometimes I'll be like, you know, I'm one that loves to help, like any aspiring artists or even established artists that are like, well, how is it that you get, you know, played all the time? Well, because what we send in is good quality. And that's what the PDs want. You know, if you're sending in a song that, you know, that there is no balance in the speakers when he hears it in his truck or in his office, you know, and you hear all this, you know, buzzing in the background, like, how do you expect for that to get on the airwaves? So one, it's very important that you're going to get a good mix and master in, you know, that your instrumentation is on point, that your vocals are good, you know, all those things are very important.
A good product in general.
Yeah, a good product in general, that, you know, you have a good music video, that you have a good team behind you, that you promote yourself. Like, I don't put it all on Myra. You know, like, Myra distributes my music, yes, but it's my job to promote myself. I mean, we don't have a major label behind us funding us, you know, paying all this money for advertisement, you know, like, we have to, you know, post ourselves, you know, and that's because we're old school, you know. Now everything is like TikTok, y que Instagram, y que Facebook, and because we're barely getting used to that kind of stuff, you know, like posting ourselves.
New to us.
You know, and to us, You know, we're in the radio stations in person meeting with these program directors. A lot of people think, or they have this sense of entitlement that, oh, because they send the song that they have to play them. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to go and do interviews in person. You have to go and meet these program directors, you know, speak to them about what your mission is. What's your mission statement? What is your goal? Claro. You know, what is it that you want to project to the listening audience? You know, it's all of that is important. You know,
it's very similar to a job interview.
Yeah,
you know, when you're job searching, you know, usually they're gonna.
Have you ever thought about managing others?
Who, me? I mean, I manage myself, but
that's why I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, my goal is, you know, when I retire, you know, is to help with artist development. You know, that's what the Tejanas Unidas en Cristo nonprofit is. You know, I want to be able to get money together to launch new talent, you know, record a single with a music video, you know, so, you know, a lot of people don't have the money to do that.
Right.
You know, there's all this talent that's in the valley, but, you know, their parents financially can't afford to do it.
That's Alex and me right now.
Yeah. Pretty much.
And so the goal is to, you know, get money together once this film gets released, and, you know, hopefully we're able to, you know, get some funds to be able to do that. That's our goal. You know, that, I mean, it's been something that's been in the works for a while, but it takes a lot of money. Unfortunately, it takes a lot of money. You know, I've been blessed, thank God, you know, knock on wood. I've never had to pay anyone to play my music. You know, it's all been through hard work, dedication, you know, having Myra by my side, and I mean, and it can be done. But you have to have
that's
good
a huge plus
material.
because where the money goes is in that recording. You have to put, and then it doesn't end there. You have to pay for your promotioning and marketing and whatnot.
Yeah. And so, I mean, but more than anything, the biggest part is you have to have faith. And you have to have, I mean, whatever higher power you believe in. I mean, I don't force God on anyone, but I'm just saying that, you know, he's a gentleman. I mean, he's not going to come and change your situation unless you invite him in, you know, and you invite him in to change your situation, to, you know, speak to him and tell him what the desires of your heart are. Like mine are for him to use me to talk about what he's done in my life, and to bring positivity, and everything else is a bonus. You know, I don't care about fame. I don't care. Like I told you the last time, to me, like, I spent the last 2-3 years really promoting myself to establish a name as a singer, and now, you know, it's time to focus on the live shows. You know, on the live shows and showing what Geneva can bring to the table. And I know that God is going to put the right people in my path to do that. You know, it has to be people that have the same vision, the same passion as me. I mean, the guys from Raza Monterrey, they're amazing. They know all my music. I mean, for Mexico, I'm set. But, you know, I'm not going to risk their tourist visas for them to come play for me in the U.S. So, you know, I have a Adicción that we had here, but, you know, they wanted to do their own thing. So now they have, you know, they have their own band that they put together. So, I mean, I'm looking for some guys that are wanting to take, you know, like my show on the road and us become, you know, just a vessel that God is going to use, you know, in, you know, on the stage to bring people to him, and us have a good time at the same time. You know, I have enough material to do, you know, an 1.5-hour, 2-hour show, and you know, and I have a story to tell. And so I'm believing that God is going to provide the right guys for me, that, you know, that want to do this for the love of music and not necessarily for money. Money is a plus, you know. I mean, I want to be able to pay my guys well, but in order to do that, we have to get in there and practice. And once we have our sit down, you know, God's gonna provide the stage for us, and I believe it.
I always like to believe that if you chase the money, if you do it for the money, you're never gonna get there. But if you chase the dream and you work hard, the money's gonna come. Eventually. Of course, sometimes it creates more problems, pero por eso es bien importante, pues es como in your case, be connected to God, or be connected to a higher force to be able to keep our feet on the ground, y sobre todo ser agradecido. Yo hablo mucho de eso con Jesse, que, I mean, si algo yo estoy de hacer este podcast y tener esta amistad con él, es ser agradecido, de siempre dar gracias. Siempre yo que hablo con Dios, I started praying not too long ago. I mean, if I can be honest with you, and Jesse knows this, I mean, I was never a big believer. I think I mentioned that the last time that we spoke, pero I can definitely agree with a lot of what you're saying, because when I started praying, and praying in the sense of talking with God, not praying as in,
asking for stuff.
Yeah. Because I think if anything, I was raised Catholic. My parents, and of course, por la cultura. And you know that with that religion, y no por hablar mal de eso, like you said earlier, mi respetos para todo eso, pero I feel that it's very repetitive what they say. Like it's just like they're reading just lines, and that's their prayer. And I felt like, no, like I want to talk to somebody. I want to pour my heart out. But I never knew you could do that with prayer until I started talking to people like Jesse, like other people that I know, JP, who he was the lead singer for Volumen X. And they're the ones that they showed me, I mean, you don't have to do a prayer all fancy and formal. Like, you can just
talk to him,
tell him what, And for me, what came naturally was just saying, you know what, pues, I'm grateful, because I know that, you're putting a lot of good people in my life. You're giving me a second chance at doing something that I'm passionate about. Because I think that's what really depressed me the most, that I felt my life was just, I could see my whole life in front of me. Like, okay, I'm just going to be a trucker for the rest of my life, and that's what I'm going to do. And that was so depressing to me, because I was always driven by passion, which is this baby right here with music. It's I see that, and I'm like, man, I love doing this. I can just do this all day, and I'm happy. And not having that in my life, me agüitaba mucho. So, I'm just grateful that I'm being able to get that second chance. And like you say, God is putting people in our lives. Hopefully you're one of those, and vamos a ver qué planes él tiene para nosotros en el futuro.
Like I always say, like, to me, it's not about the quantity of shows that I do a year. It's about the quality of the shows that I'm going to do in the year. So whether I do 3 shows or 10 or 5, as long as I'm able to reach one soul in that audience that's going to, change their life around, and they're going to see what God can do and the mountains he can move, I'm doing my purpose in this earth, which is what I tell God, use me, úsame, Señor. And I know that I've reached many people through the airwaves. I've reached them through interviews, through podcasts, because I've gotten inboxes where people have literally messaged me and said, that I was going to kill myself tonight, but because I came across your interview, I'm here, so that to me is the reward. And more than anything, the reward that I'm gonna have when I'm reunited with my mom. Like I believe I had mentioned to you that, when my brother passed, my brother was atheist. So imagine, having a strong Christian woman of faith, and then having a brother who was atheist. We would always butt heads, because he would laugh at me, and I would cry, because I would tell him, how could you not believe? Like, wouldn't you rather believe and know that you're going to go to heaven than not believe and know for sure you're not going? And he would laugh at me. But then I came to find out through a friend of his, because by the time we got to my brother, he was already in a coma, so I didn't get to ask him, like, hey, do you receive God in your heart? So that's something, like, I didn't talk to God for a year. I was so hurt, because at the time I was going to church 3 times a week. I was really focused, and I said, no, God's going to heal you, and you're going to be a living testimony. So when he was gone, I was just like, how could you do this to me? Like, I was so hurt, and I was so
betrayed.
Yes. But with time, God showed me that, because like I said, a friend of his told me that, like a week before he passed, that he had spoken to her and said, like, hey, what do you think of this God stuff? And then she's like, well, like, I believe, because of what if I don't believe and then I don't go to heaven? And so he's like, oh, I might give it a try. But I think it was his pride that didn't allow him to share that with me. But just to know that eventually he said it gave me peace. And I came to the conclusion, and God used his granddaughter, which is my niece, to get me to realize this, because I used to go to Zumba, right? And in my class, my Zumba teacher would play a Christian song before and after our class. And so I would always get there late because I didn't want to hear it. And I would leave as soon as, our class finished because I didn't want to hear it. Yeah. I just didn't want to hear his name. I didn't want to hear nothing. I was just so mad and bitter because I felt like he had taken my brother from me, And so one day I had taken my niece. She was literally like a year and a half. And she was sitting down in one of the this platform that was there. And I was packing my bag, and literally when I was walking towards her to get her, she put her hand up like, wait. And then she went like this, like listen. And I was like, what, and so she went like this. And so I sat with her. And so I started listening to the song, and everybody was stretching, and it was a song called Al Final by Lily Goodman. And so the song basically says, dice, it says something like, basically, like, there's been times that I've been speaking to you and all I've heard from you is silence. Like, it was like if he was talking to me and telling me, like, okay, I get it. Like, you feel like I wasn't there for you. Like, but know that al final, there's going to be something better, and the reward is heaven. So I felt like he was telling me, like, hey, like, why are you mad at me? Like, he's with me. You know what I mean? But at the time, I didn't understand because I didn't see it, right? But I felt like at that moment, like, I closed my eyes and I felt him tell me, I took him because he accepted me. And if I would have sent him back, he would have lost his salvation. Wow. You know what I mean? And so I remember the next Sunday I was in church, and I was, and I was like, I said, forgive me, God. Like, forgive me for even, for even thinking that you weren't going to take him because he didn't believe in you, or because he didn't, if you have a heart of repentance, even the second before you do something, God will hear you. Yeah. But, my hurt was just so big that I didn't see it at the moment, but he used her to show me, like, I'm here, está conmigo, porque estás triste, porque estás amargada, like people would talk to me, and I would, like, even Margarita, the singer, Margarita Canela, Margarita Fender, she wasn't really a woman of faith, and it was through me and through my persistence that, she gave her life to the Lord, and now she serves him, and she would try to talk to me about God, and I was, I don't want to hear it. Are you sure that it's real? Like, literally to that point, Wow. And so now, I asked him, I got on my knees and I said, Lord, forgive me for being angry at you. And so, I mean, it's just been so many things, a lot of people, they've just been hurt so much. Like, I feel, my father, Jose Luis Salas, saludos mami papi, he adopted my brother. My brother was like 4 or 5 years old when he met my mom. Okay. And so I think that the biggest thing that affected my brother was the fact that his father wasn't in his life. Yeah. And I think that he probably prayed to God so many times for his dad to come back, and he didn't, so he didn't believe, But then when my dad came into his life, because my brother had gotten my mom's maiden name, which is Cipriano. But my dad, literally like 20 some days after he met my mom, he married her because my brother said that all he wanted for his birthday was a dad. And so my dad married my mom because he fell in love with my brother. Wow. And so my father, my biological father became his father, so he never saw him any different. He said, that's my dad, But my dad always told him a story that's why God hadn't given him a last name, because he knew that he was going to be his son. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, I'm so blessed. Like I said, I lost my mom 3 years ago. It was the hardest thing of my life because, she had just broken her ankle, and all of a sudden she got an infection, and she passed, and I wasn't able to be by her side when she passed because of this whole COVID thing. But I had peace in my heart, because God gave me 2 months for her to come live with us at my house. And it gave my dad 2 months to learn what it was to live by himself, because he was only cooking for himself those 2 months. I mean, he would come to my house every day to visit my mom, but I mean, I moved out of my home when I was 19. So, you know, I hadn't lived with my mom for 28 years. So those 2 months that God gave me with her, we were able to bond. You know, I was able to cook for her and make her all her favorite things like cornbread. And, you know, she had told me, mija, yo no me quiero ir para mi casa. Yo me quiero quedar a vivir contigo. Yeah. And so when my mom passed, I'm not sure if you ever heard my song called Casa Triste.
No,
I recorded it. You need to check it out. Right. I recorded it in honor of my mom.
Casa Triste.
Casa Triste, yeah.
I'll check it out.
I dedicate it to everybody that has lost a loved one. So basically, a week after my mom died, my husband and I were sitting in our kitchen, and we were just like, our house felt different. And then my dad, I just hear my phone, bing, and it was that song Casa Triste. And it was recorded by some other singer. And me and my husband are listening to it, and it was exactly how we felt. Like our house just felt different now that she wasn't there. And it's a beautiful song. And up until recently, I had no idea that over 2,300 people have used it on TikTok as a sound for, I mean, you're talking about people in like Nigeria and like real deep into Mexico, like the ranchitos, where they share a piece of my song Casa Triste, and you can see them literally like carrying the caskets down like a dirt road. And, you know, so that song is touching people's lives like all over the world. And that song, even though it came out like 3 years ago, I'm going to be filming a music video. So, I'm inviting, you know, fans. I mean, I don't even call them fans. I call them friends. Claro. Because, I mean, I don't like to label people as fans. I call them my friends because that's how we connect. And so, you know, I'm going to invite, you know, just friends of mine to participate in the music video. You know, just print out a big picture of a loved one that they've lost, that they miss. And so I'm going to film it probably at Quinta Mazatlan. And so, I mean, it's going to be something beautiful, but, you know, I have music for everything, for
every occasion.
Yeah, for heartbroken people, for
people that are in love.
Yeah, people that are in love. You know, I'm a hopeless romantic.
But that's a beautiful thing about music, that it's I think the Doors have a song about it, that music is with you until the end, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, during your good, when you celebrate, when you're sad. I mean, our last guests, who were the Texas Sweethearts, les mando un saludo para Elisa, Mari, para Diana. They do a lot of funerals with their music.
Me too.
And we were talking about that, like how music is so amazing, porque it can literally be a part of every aspect of our life.
It's a bittersweet thing.
Yeah. Sí, pero it helps us to cope, you know, to express ourselves. Es muy bonito.
Yeah, I do that a lot too. I mean, a lot of people are like, why do you do that? Why, you know, you're going to be known as a funeral singer. I'm like, I don't care. You know, if they're calling me to sing their loved one to the heavens, you know, that's what God's using me there, you know. And I mean, before it was hard because I used to take it with me, like the pain, the sadness, you know. I would go and I would be in my car and I'd be sitting there crying, like I would take that loss with me. But then I learned to separate the two and say, no, I got to be a professional. You know, sometimes I'd be singing and I'd get this knot in my throat and I'm like, no, you know, it has to be perfect. Like if they're, you know, I always ask for, and I say this word because Patsy Torres showed it to me. It's called an honorarium. Like people would tell me, like, how much do you charge? And I'm like, no, whatever your heart wants to bless me with, you know, even if it's $5 or $1, I don't care. I mean, there's times that I've driven an hour, you know, and I mean, of course, but you have gas and whatever. But to me, it's whatever you want to bless me with, right? And I mean, there's times that I've sang for, you know, 2-month-old babies to, you know, 95-year-old, you know, grandmas. And so, I mean, I just ask God to continue to use me wherever it is that he wants to use me. But I mean, I just tell people, if you have, you know, we don't have a designated time that we're going to be here, right? We never know. So if you have, like, if you're fighting with your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, you know, it's time to heal that and make up, because we don't know how long we're going to be here, and the last thing you want to have is regret. And so, I mean, I just think that the most beautiful thing is to love your family, every day, like if today was your last day.
Claro.
And like I said, I just ask God to continue to use me, and pues aquí estamos para servirles en lo que ocupen.
Claro. Oye, Geneva, pues I really like what we're talking about, man. This is, like I said before, I'm having a good time with this interview. Pero definitivamente no quiero dejar pasar la oportunidad de que la gente te escuche cantar. I know we don't have a live band, and we didn't even bring a guitar. Jesse normalmente trae una guitarra, un piano, pero hoy pues se nos durmió el gallo.
No, pues
pero
nothing like raw natural talent, right?
Acapella,
yeah.
See, would you mind singing?
No,
I don't know if you have a song out right now that you want to promote.
Well, I do. I have Ya No Somos Ni Seremos, but I think I'd rather sing one of my last hits, which is Aunque Sea en Otra Vida. It's like one of my favorite songs. We actually won Video of the Year with that song, so it's like one of my favorites.
Damas y caballeros, en vivo en el Alex MD Podcast, Geneva.
No me arrepiento por haber sido una aventura pasajera de tu tonto experimento. No fue mi culpa haberle dado el corazón a quien no tiene sentimientos, y me perdí creyendo en ti. No me arrepiento. La soledad también es buena compañía y nunca le he tenido miedo. Y si algún día te das cuenta de tu error, eso es decisión del tiempo. Hoy decidí dejarte ir y no me arrepiento de dar y quedarme sin nada. Si bien me lograste engañar, no me cortas las alas. Y no me arrepiento de dar lo mejor que tenía. Te juro que voy a olvidarte, aunque sea en otra vida.
Bravo.
Gracias.
Bravo. Wow. That's, wow. I'm speechless. ¿Esa canción es tuya?
No, esa canción es originalmente grabada por Edith Márquez, otra gran inspiración para mí. Y pues ella la grabó en versión balada. Y pues decidí yo grabarla en una cumbia Tex-Mex, y pues esa canción también nos llevó a posición número 1 en el Tejano Gold Countdown, que fue un sueño realizado para mí. Igual,
Y tiene su video esa canción,
sí,
obviamente.
Tiene su video,
está en YouTube y todo. Raza, chéquenlo, vayan a checar ahí, suscríbanse al canal de Geneva y pueden encontrar canciones como esta y todos los éxitos que ella ha grabado.
Sí.
Pues Geneva, yo te quiero agradecer mucho que te hayas tomado el tiempo de venir y abrir tu corazón, no solo para mí, para Jessie, pero para toda la audiencia que va a estar viendo este podcast. Sí. Como dije anteriormente, estoy seguro que va a haber varias personas que probablemente les va a hacer bien escuchar tu testimonio y todo lo que tú estás diciendo. Geneva, ¿algún social media donde la gente que está escuchando, si te quieren seguir, where can they find you?
Well, on YouTube, I'm under Geneva Christian TV. I mean, all they have to do is search Geneva, GENYVA. If they Google me, they can find, like, on Instagram, I'm under La Voz del Valle Geneva. On TikTok, I'm under Geneva Salas. On Facebook, I'm under Geneva. And then I think more people get connected with me through my personal page, which is the Geneva Salas Monjaras. And then if they want to book me, they can email us at discosdondedios@gmail.com, or they can message my Reddy at 956-367-7818. I mean, if it's for a show, that's not a problem. I have my old band that, if it's something immediate here locally, I have my old band that, knows my music. We can get together. But, like I said, the goal is to, get another group of guys that are going to, just be ready to go if we have a show going, right?
Of course.
But Myra's number is 956-367-7818 with Myra D. And I I guess that's it. I think I said all of them right. And then because my music is available on all digital platforms like Spotify, Apple Music. Make sure you use the GENYVA sounds on TikTok. There's basically now I just recently was accepted to have an artist page on there, so they can get direct links to all my music there. So I'm available.
Raza, check her out. Check her out. Ahorita, these past couple of weeks that we've been in contact for this podcast, I've been doing of course research for this interview, and she has a lot of content, especially on YouTube, videos, interviews, todo eso. Apoyen a la raza del Valle, la raza, los artistas que I mean, like I said before, you're definitely somebody who's you've been working really hard for this, and like you said earlier, you're definitely bringing quality music to the table, which is something that's so lacking in today's radio. And we're so grateful not only to have you here, but to know that you do all those things. It speaks very well of you. Jesse, ¿algo que quieras agregar, carnal?
Man, I am speechless. I am wowed. I have all these emotions going through me right now. But all I can say is I feel blessed to have had you here today.
Thank you so much, Jesse. And I'm so another thing that we didn't talk about is we're up for consideration for a Grammy, for a Latin Grammy. So God willing, we'll get a nomination. And if so, pues Jesse will be getting his certificate because he participated in the project. So saludos a todos los muchachos que participaron en este EP, como Salvador Chava Chávez, Raúl Singletary, Hector Lerma, pues Jesse Segovia, right? Is that your last name?
Yes,
Segovia. Yes. Segovia, yeah. And so to everybody that formed part of it, I'm truly blessed to have you all on there, and we'll put it in God's hands. And if we don't get a nomination, we're gonna try next year until we get one, because I believe it. I believe it.
Sí.
And tell Chava to send me more work.
Claro que sí.
I mean, the Grammy will be just like a cherry on the top of the cake, but obviously el mejor premio siempre es el aplauso del público. And we know that you have a lot of that. Sabemos que la gente te apoya mucho, especialmente ahora con tus producciones más recientes.
Sí, y tienen que seguir pidiendo nuestra música aquí en la Super Tejano 102.1, también en La Ley. ¿Y quién más nos toca?
Monterrey, me imagino que también.
En Monterrey, sí, saludos a todos mis amigos de Monterrey, allá en La Invasora, en La Mejor, pues también, súper feliz de todo el apoyo que me han brindado. Y pues agradecida con ustedes, gracias por invitarme para abrir su espacio para su servidora GENYVA. Y pues aquí sabes que tienes una nueva amiga, usted y mi amigo Jesse. Y pues que no sea la última vez que me inviten.
Definitivamente. We're gonna leave the door open for a part 2. Cuando, obviously, you're gonna keep working, vas a seguir sacando más producción para que vengas y nos platiques de todo lo que está pasando con tu carrera.
Para la patrona.
Claro que sí.
Sí.
Sí, cómo no, de aquí del Valle. Un saludo también. Quería extender antes que...
Armando Almazán y Mario Facundo.
Claro que sí. Un saludito a buen amigo Pepe Lepiu también por ahí, que le están echando muchas ganas. Pues, GENYVA, muchas gracias por acompañarnos el día de hoy. Nuevamente la puerta está abierta para la segunda parte.
Sí, claro. Y pues a cada uno de ustedes los invito, si están sentados en casa pensando que no tienen propósito, pídele a Dios que te revele tu propósito aquí en este mundo. Dios, nos hizo a cada uno de nosotros únicos. Tú eres único y tú vales mucho. Entonces, es que sigue luchando por tus sueños y verás que Dios te cumplirá todos los deseos de tu corazón.
Claro. Amén. A toda la raza que vio este capítulo, les queremos agradecer. Como siempre, los invitamos a que nos sigan en todas nuestras redes sociales. Estamos en YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Por ahí pueden suscribirse para estar al corriente de todo lo que estamos haciendo, de los artistas que estamos presentando. Les deseo a todos un excelente día, una linda noche. Chao.